Welcome to Talk to Brazil with Tom Rioch, the business connector to business in Brazil. Welcome to Talk to Brazil, the Business Connection, a leading business podcast talking about business in the world. I'm Tom Rioch, an American from Pittsburgh, living in Brazil, known as the King of Networking, and talking from my podcast studio in Vinhedo, the state of São Paulo. Today's guest is Khudania Ajay, and he's joining us from New Delhi in India. Khudania Ajay is host and founder of the KAJ Masterclass. He's on a mission to help 100,000 entrepreneurs achieve growth using content consulting. The KAJ Masterclass Live receives masters from various fields and from whom AJ's wide and varied audience can profit, either through insights, information, or simply learning. AJ produces shows almost daily, and I had the pleasure and honor of participating in one of those lives. AJ is also founder of Khudania Media Networks in New Delhi, providing crisis communication, reputation management, and media management advisory service to corporations. AJ, welcome to Talk to Brazil, the Business Connection.
Thank you so much, Tom, for inviting me for this great show of yours.
Well, it was the return because I was so fascinated by the live that you honored me with that I personally, I can't stop thinking about you because you are a bright, shining light in this world. And what you do and how you do it certainly impresses me. But that's the question I want to know. Why did you create the KAJ Masterclass Live?
Thank you for this question, Tom. KAJ Masterclass Live is an opportunity basically to give back to what I have learned all throughout my life in journalism. I've had the opportunity to work with the best in India and also from outside while working with Reuters, PTI, that's the Press Trust of India, and also CNBC TV 18, the prominent news channel. So all these places I not only work, but I learned a lot. The nuances of journalism, the nuances of content, what is right, what is balance, what is accuracy. And in spite of all the speed that you do your work with, the accuracy factor has to be there, the balance has to be there, the objectivity has to be there. And that learning I wanted to bring whenever this opportunity came of technology helping me for this. And now with all the new tools and technology that has come up in the last several years, I thought this was the time to utilize all that and get the people the type of content that is so much missing at a lot of places. On the mainstream media, they are doing their bit, but then the type of people I am getting, podcasters, entrepreneurs, small business owners, individual entrepreneurs, freelancers, but who have got great skill sets. So I thought, why not give an opportunity to all those that is possible and use that skill set to cater to all the people in the world that is possible, who can utilize that information, that knowledge to benefit their business, to profit their stuff, whatever they are doing. So this was the basic reason of using my content background, my journalism background, and putting it in context of the present.
Why did you come to the number of 100,000? Where does that come from?
That comes from a very general belief in India. You see, India is a hugely populated country, and 100,000 is not a big number if you think from India's perspective. But the main reason was that there are so many startups, so many freelancers, so many entrepreneurs. Almost everybody is into entrepreneurship, especially in the backdrop of COVID. You see, a lot of people have gone into. Government has put so much emphasis on Startup India. So every day you got entrepreneurs in every field, and you know what? They are brilliant people across all over the country. And trying to do their own stuff. But one thing I have seen is the lack of quality content. They know what they do, but everybody doesn't know how to put it the best way they want to do it.
And how to take that forward, how to tell everybody else what you do.
Yes. How to tell their story.
Right.
And I have been into this whole business of telling story as a non-participatory observer. You know, when you are a journalist, you are trained to look at the story from a certain distance.
Right.
Enough to be close, but enough also to be at a distance to tell it, you know, in the right manner. So I wanted to utilize all this storytelling ability, which in present day you call it content, to help them tell their stories best to their customers, to their audience.
Well, you're talking about India, but what you just said is the same here, not only for Brazil, but all of Latin America. It's the same for most of, if not all, Africa and many other parts of the world. Small business, historically, the world has always been successful through small business. All large businesses started as small businesses, right? The difference is what you said of getting your content together, getting your story. Many of the large corporations today, they keep repeating their story because they found that storytelling is successful and it maintains them where they are. So for the small business person, it's not even the small business because generally speaking, the entrepreneur, he has the idea before he has the business.
Yes, yes. And in fact, I'll tell you a bit more about this whole stuff where I'm utilizing all my, you know, the video skills that I've learned, the audio skills that you learn as part of the video, and the text which you learn through, because I worked in 2 news agencies and 1 television background company. That's a CNBC, you know. So I'll tell you how it works is that the biggest thing now that's happening is the video part.
Right.
So everybody is going video because it is a big marketing tool today.
Right.
So whenever I get a master, it goes first in video format. That's I put it on YouTube. I go live on YouTube, then on Facebook, on LinkedIn. That's where a lot of professionals are. So you get in touch with a lot of professionals through that. That gives you exposure.
Right.
And I can also go on Twitter, but I cannot go more than 3 places at the same time. So I have to pick and choose according to the benefit of the master or for the particular topic as such. And then the same thing goes on audio in almost all the top directories of the world. So it reaches to everybody possible in the world who can make use of that content or that information or that learning that the master brings to along. So it can be anybody. I've done a lot of what you call masters from Germany, from Austria, from a lot of places in Europe, Croatia, then many guests from US, UK. So this is the way it is going. So covering Brazil, Israel, you know, I don't remember all of them at the same time, but it also gives me that perspective. Would you believe I've never gone out of India ever in my life? But through this, I have learned so many things about so many places that I would never have been able to do otherwise. So it's not that I am giving, I feel I am receiving more than what I am giving. And I stand more educated today, more learning for me, while I try to bring some learning for everybody else. And then, you know, the last part is that I use the text part of it. So I use the whole interview onto Substack. It goes to a lot of people. So I haven't monetized it. I haven't gone, you know, as subscriptions. It's still free. Right. I also use it on Medium. So there is searchability. There is a lot of, you know, searchability for people who are coming on the show. Then people can find it. And I'm trying to put all that again on LinkedIn articles also. And any other place that I can think of. I've recently now put it on Patreon. Wherever I'll find a good place that the content can be, you know, used. Right. I will just try and put it, if whatever is possible for me.
Well, you brought up a point when we say, where is a good place? What I have found, all places are good for somebody.
Yes.
Because we're talking about 8 billion people in this world. And And there are 8 billion people searching. That's the astounding thing. Every day somebody's searching for everything. And what I have tried to do myself, what I learned that long ago, we need to be found.
Yes.
The cost of going out, the outbound marketing, the going out knocking on doors in the olden days of trying to find business or trying to find connections, that was a costly experience, time consuming. And when I learned inbound marketing concepts, that really it's the same door. Instead of you going out knocking on somebody else's door, you need to generate content, and that's the secret of what you say. Generate content for people to find and for them to come and knock on your door. It's simple. It's difficult, but it's simple because there are 8 billion people looking for a door to knock on and looking for content, looking to learn, looking for information. So really anywhere is a good place. Obviously, and this is what I admire about what you do, it takes a lot of hard work on your part. To do what you just said you do is time consuming. Even though technology helps you, for you to plan one live and then to populate all of the different platforms, that takes a lot of work. So that's why I admire when you are almost daily doing that. That's astounding.
Yeah, thank you for your kind words, Tom. Yes, there is, because I would not disagree with you. There is a lot of hard work, but then you see, even you are doing a lot of hard work. So you see a lot of podcasters everywhere. They are doing a lot of hard work. And I speak on their behalf that hope those people who are benefiting, the businesses who are benefiting, they look at podcasters, such content creators who may not have very mass following as that of an influencer.
Right.
But they should look at them much more positively, who are creating content for everybody to benefit.
Right.
They should look at sponsoring them, taking care of them as much as possible, getting in touch with them, giving some advertisements, help them monetize it, so monetize their content, so that keeps their ship be afloat. It gives them the impetus to be themselves and to create content for everybody. There is a difference. They are not influencers in that sense of the word.
Yeah, we are. I recently read an article which says that the population that was surveyed on that says that a podcast host or a radio host, you're from the time of journalism, that a host, the credibility of a host of what we say is very high. More than 53, almost 60% of the person surveyed said they truly believe what you or I say. So together with that, we also have a responsibility. We have a social responsibility together with the word integrity. We have to be very, I don't want to say careful, but we have to be responsible about what we say and how we say it, because people believe it. And obviously what you're saying, what I say is true, but we're in the area today, it's fake news. You really can't believe everything. People say, well, that's fake. So we need, in what you do, the way you do it, you maintain integrity, you maintain honesty, if we can use that word, and it's the believability of the way you do what you do. And I think that adds value to any master that you bring on.
Yes, and that's where as I said, there is that slight bit of a difference in a mass influencer, because you see, they can put anything about any product when they are talking about. We can't do that. I cannot do that. You cannot do that. In between our talks, you suddenly can't say, oh, this brand of soap is very good. You start using it. Mm-hmm. We can't put it on our social media handles. It will look a bit abrupt, out of the way.
Right.
So we got to find different ways to monetize our content, or different ways to sustain ourselves.
That's the sustainability of what we do. And that's our challenge. That's our challenge. Not our, I'm saying that collectively. That's a podcast host challenge today.
Yes. And that's the thing that everybody is struggling with. Everybody is not a full-time podcaster, but there are many of them and who are doing great work. That is why I always try to get podcasters onto the show wherever there is a request and help them reach new audiences, because not only they are podcasters, they are also business owners in their own right. So they are trying to sell. For in my case, I advise a lot of people. A lot of them is free advice, but for corporates or other people I advise, I try to earn that money for my livelihood.
Right.
But I cannot monetize my interviews. That will be out of the way. It will be different way. It's like my journalist training has not prepared me to market your interview.
But that's a tendency now. If you look out there to tendencies, that's becoming a tendency. There are actually companies selling an interviewee and purveying and PR agencies that are out there. And so I'm not saying that's good or bad, but everything becomes a business. But what you have done and what I have tried to do is part of what you said. I need, and I consider what I do a business. It's not a hobby. Even years ago when I started as an internet radio program, I assumed that was going to be a business. And as an entrepreneur, as you said, I needed to find a way to monetize it so I could keep it going, because there are costs involved. And what you do, you just mentioned, there are costs involved. So the more you consider what you do a business and the more I consider what I do as a business, then we become sustainable because it becomes a business model. And that helps lead the other persons out there, because many, as we talk about podcasts, there are millions of podcasts. There are millions of podcast hosts. But many of them, and the majority, seem to be amateurs in what they do. They try it. It's an add-on. Say, I podcast too. But to be in it as a business, to be in it professionally, it's a challenge. In Brazil and in many other parts of the world, a podcast host is not a profession. It doesn't exist. Even on LinkedIn, again, what can I be, a podcast? Sometimes you can't even find it. So it's not even considered as a business. A live caster like you are, we have to create our own profession, seriously. And make it professional, because it is. It's a business.
Yes, and where the content is not compromised.
Right.
See, I do not have anything if people run sponsored interviews, as long as your ability to ask tough questions is not compromised. And I'm talking not about tough questions. You are obviously not a television host. You don't have the same responsibility as they have, but at least you can ask your questions. Your podcast should not be just pure, exactly the version that other person wants. Then it is nothing there for the viewer or listener. It should not be there. They should know that what they are getting is some real learning, some real information, some insight into whatever they are there for.
Well, that's what you offer. And I think that the challenge of what we do is what we say we hope will stick to somebody, and we hope they learn. Because years ago, I used to be a teacher. I don't say I used to be a teacher, but I went to school and I got a diploma that says I am a teacher. But in the end, we are all teachers all the time. And what you're doing, you've assumed that. You are the professor. All right, you're helping, you're offering learning. That's the active part. The other side, people have to want to receive that. They need to want to learn. And what I've done and continue doing, and as you just said, we learn every day. The people that we interview, the places that you've spoken to people with, it's fantastic. We have, and we can have, a completely different view of the world because we've heard it. We've spoken to people from there. They've told their story. So that helps us, and what you try to do is to help people see the world, because there is success. There are successful stories everywhere.
Yes, through them, I am also seeing the world. So as I said earlier, I am not just giving, I am receiving more than while doing whatever I am doing. And in fact, to the earlier point of PR agencies also, Tom, I'll tell you what, I have seen this industry from very close as a journalist and an independent entrepreneur or provider of certain services that are, the advisory services to corporates, to a lot of other people. I tell you, PR industry is today standing at a crossroad because a lot of things are going video
Right.
and digital.
Right.
And if they don't understand the value of content, and I'm talking about globally,
Right.
then a lot of functions are already moving towards digital agencies and towards marketing,
Right.
where they are hiring people who are good in content creation internally. So what has happened is the pie for the PR agency will reduce day by day.
That's right.
Isn't it? If they don't consider content as a very integral part of their setup. I'm talking about India mainly because I have seen so many agencies from very close. And that is where I try to, through this, I try to create conversations which benefits a lot of marketing people also, PR agencies also, because a lot of jobs are all at stake.
Right.
And if they don't understand, all the things will cut off from PR agency and move towards marketing and toward digital agencies. And that will be, I guess, a lot of loss for people on the public relations field because not just print is there.
Right.
Now it's video,
It's
audio,
video.
and it's
video.
growing by the day.
It's video. No, and what I've seen is people walking around with their smartphone, they're not listening anymore. They're watching. They're seeing. So the video content, and many times you could see that when we're in a collective atmosphere where the people, you can't really use the sound, but you can see the video. And as you have learned, you can put that text, you can transform the audio to text and people can read what is being said.
Yes.
They don't have to hear it anymore. So the technology helps us adapt to wherever we are and how we want to use the information that's there. So I think that coming from your journalistic background, I think has been a massive find for yourself of transforming everything that you have done in your life and now putting it forward.
Yes. And I'll tell you what, Tom, that every journalist struggles, media industry is struggling everywhere. But the biggest find for me has been for myself is that I have created a role for myself or a place in this world through this for myself, which will be with me for a long, long time to come. And you know what? That means I have created a new role, a new importance, a new thing for me to look forward to, which a lot of my friends have not been able to. So I've been very fortunate to find this, especially during COVID, where I started just podcasting, just audio, just to understand things.
Right.
And since last 5 months, 3-4 months, I have started doing this live stuff, and it's been actually very fulfilling, and it gives me a vision for the future.
Well, I want to again thank you for finding me in this, your challenge and accepting and doing what you're doing, because I'm an example. You found me, you reached out, you invited me, I took part, and to be honest with you, I've re-listened to my own interview with you. And why? Because we need to learn from ourselves. Many times, and in our story, we have to listen to our own story. And what you gave me was the opportunity to hear my story from myself. Because if we walk around talking to ourselves, people think we're crazy. But if we walk around and listen to ourselves on one of your lives, it is a learning process. And I can guarantee you that. It has transformed me. It has opened my mind to myself. We don't visit ourselves, right? We visit other people. We talk to other people. But from other people that I've learned, sometimes we have to reflect. We have to get into our own mind. And that's easier said than done. But what you have offered, what I've seen and what you do, I've done that. I sit around and listen, and it helps me remember things that I thought were important. Today they still may be. Other things that I didn't say that maybe I should have said. So that in itself is a Bible to success. And I would hope that all people who come through your life listen to themselves as a learning experience.
Yeah, I want everybody to, that's the biggest part, to be able to see within, to listen to yourself. And not only just the audio part of it, just in our daily lives also, if we start listening to ourselves, travel more within, right. I think that will be the biggest journey for anybody in this world. That's what I have realized in the last so many years. And as for finding you, I did not find you, Tom. It's all, the Almighty who decides everything in advance. See, I belong to a culture which believes a lot in destiny and a lot of things planned you. You just do the work. And
I agree with you. I agree with you.
Yeah,
but
and you just,
if you're not out there, you can't help the spirits do their work.
Yeah, humans have to at least do some thinking. God cannot do everything. So he leaves some part to you. You see, your karma can change everything.
That's right.
Even God's plan, it can change if you do if you walk the right path.
And that's what happened in our case. And I want to thank you again because it has been an enlightening experience. And as we mentioned before we came on air, we want to continue that. I've learned so much from you, and I hope to continue doing that.
Same here, Tom. Same here.
Well, Ajay, I want to thank you for sharing your time and your experience. And as I just said, we will be back and we will be talking more, okay?
Thank you so much. Indeed. It will be a pleasure.
And for our listeners, you can find more about Khudania Ajay, and his name is Khudania. The last name is Ajay. You'll find him on LinkedIn and the site, the KAJ Masterclass.live. The KAJ Masterclass.live. I'd like to thank you and our audience and our sponsor, Focus MI Market Intelligence. Focus MI specializes in market research for the Brazilian agricultural market. More about them on their site, focusmi.com. Talk to Brazil podcast can be found on all major podcast platforms. Remember, when you talk to Tom, you talk to Brazil and the world. Goodbye, and thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to Tom Rioch on Talk to Brazil, the business connector to Brazil.